here in 15 years ago, where we still had a border control when we came in the morning. I had to be out before 5 because it was closed up. So we came in. Do we have anyone? So yeah. All the way around, that's the idea. And then underneath the connection. Now all the hospitals are made so it's individual rooms, so we don't lay together. To not infect each other as much as we experienced in Cobe. So that's one of the things. Important thing here. Economy. Salary. Most important part of the office. Thank you. That's the science building next to an Olympic site for actually neuroscience. That was the one Danny was talking about, which is a visitor center for discussing science, and it was great. So it's only a public center. Yeah.
Are these?
These are these, yes. Working. But that was the idea of it. Yeah, just have the opening. Things that misses out, as we can see. Actually, when the level at the hospital, just to be able to work.
Yes, exactly. So much easier.
And we are also, maybe that.
Yes. Because we are, when you go back, the airport, that's our inside.
Renovations, and it's 24 hours open and everything is complete. Yeah. So we have a lot of people inside, actually.
The old way of working has changed in our field because we are doing the
crazy transformation.
That you cannot see bridges that gives so much quality and you can see them. Some of you might have been here, but this is the very first commercial airport in Copenhagen and has been extended basically since this commercial airport was constructed. One of Vilhelm Lauritzen's kind of phrases is that architecture should be applied art for everyone, never just a privilege for the few. So that's what we are working under. And as you just understood, then we have different brains within our collective, and we are collected here, but we, as Vilhelm Lauritzen is one of them. This is a collaboration done also with Cobe, whom I know you'll meet later, and also of course with Still as a landscape project that you probably passed. And this is just to say, this is us. Architecture is for all, not just the few, and that's what we live from. So
we're based in the central Copenhagen office, a building known as Jan's Plads. This building is a beautifully preserved and protected example of Danish functionalism and modernism, designed in the 1950s during the post-war boom as a headquarters for a credit union. Characterized by its clean lines, pragmatic layouts, geometric patterns, and the elegant use of natural materials such as marble, teak, and brass, it featured well-appointed rooms filled with modernistic classics. And then in the early 2000s, the building was sold, converted, and unfortunately not entirely respectfully, into a flexible office space. While thankfully many original details, fittings and materials were retained, others were lost beneath white paint, slimline glass walls, and open plan layouts. I'd like to finish, say that across these projects, I feel the lesson is fairly consistent. To move forward, we must increasingly look to the past. More often than not, what we need is already there, waiting to be revealed, respected, and reimagined.
Mads and I have really been looking forward to meeting you and showing you our studio and also
Like short distance, we discussed the 5-minute city a lot. The Nordhavn here is also, you can say, the first realized, newly designed 5-minute city, at least from what we know. Yeah, we can claim a lot of things on on projects, but you know, there's a parking basement underneath this. It's the parking for the opera, and the foundation, Maersk Foundation, founded this big park for the city of Copenhagen. And I think there's many things. We will not do a lecture on all the projects here, but I think one nice story is that we try to design the park as a stage, as an opera experience with a front stage and a middle stage and a backstage. The sort of section of the opera park is conceived as over the same. So when you see it from out here, there's sort of low nature, there's middle nature in sort of volumetrics, and then on the back, the high sort of nature types and full trees will grow to 20 meters in height and so on. So it's sort of neighborhood once it's fully inhabited. It's also got 20% social housing, affordable housing on the island. That's part of the program. A hotel, so it's a complete mix of housing typologies. Underground exhibition, underground for the public to engage more with the history and legacy of democracy. So the one single tree we've planted here in the entrance for the exhibition hall is also a symbol of the initial democracy in Denmark, where you gather around a tree in Jutland, and it's actually one of those trees that will be transported and planted. There's a lot of symbolics around this project. Is at least 50% directly reused from the master plan in Tallinn, Estonia, where we have an extreme focus on reuse of materials. obviously to have a mixed-use city around it, mixing housing and office, etc., but also having your daily amenities of shopping and school, etc., in a close contact. This is completely different, located contextually with a lot of water. It has a water bus also connected to it, so it's sort of a hub also from water to land. But what's very important also from these nodes is that it connects the bike culture and this the green loop actually is on a long, you can't see it over there, but on the long perspective it's connecting the whole area in a green loop of a superbike path, which is also a loop for the future of the metro stations. Extensions. Yeah. So it's sort of connecting the whole plan in this big loop, and then all the stations will be the epicenters of this 5-minute concept. It's highly walkable, highly cyclable as an area. You can also have a car here, but it's not planned for cars. Cars take place and they are parked in huge parking bases or houses or bases. So it's all shared parking. It's only one parking lot per 200 square meters realized. So we will have a walk out here, see the green loop, which is a nice part of the sort of structure here, and then walk down through this area, which is very active in summer. Now we are on the sort of edge of summer, running out, walk through the island, and then we can go by the silo in reality, and then walk down to the busy sort of core area.
Yeah.
So this is apartment hotels called Stay. They're a big new hotel chain in Copenhagen actually, at least at the North Harbor. They have 2 different locations. One thing we really like to celebrate in Copenhagen is the bike culture, obviously, but it's also the swimmable city. So it's been a big part of creating Nordhavn to create access to the water. So this is one example of having access to the waterfront in many ways, but I also think the water culture, the recreational culture of Copenhagen is really taking in the water in all seasons. You can see there's saunas popping up. There in the round one, there's a sauna as part of the gym. Over here you also have a sauna on the ground floor. So these sauna clubs and offers on actually using the water all year round are really growing a lot. It's becoming a huge, like we're taking the Finnish culture to Denmark now. In summertime, this is completely full of canoes and people swimming, and it's packed with people here on the wooden. And as you can see, it's a quite safe atmosphere to have your kids and so on hanging out here. At this, we call it the Blue Lagoon. It's actually funny because this whole island here we did together with Vilhelm Lauritzen. The base of it has got 4 stories of parking underneath. So it's a major parking hub. It's shared parking, so everybody can park in there. But to sort of to establish this, the whole basin was filled up with sand, so they could cast the ground, the parking basement. And then when they had to take away the sand, they left 2 meters of sand on the ground floor. So that's sort of a product of the whole of the product has become a very sandy and nice looking ocean floor. And there's being planted eelgrass and all sorts of things to enhance the blue biodiversity of the area. Looks a bit dead now, but actually in summertime it's insanely vivid and full of people.
My son
He's a fisher?
doing street fishing.
In Paris?
And I like the concept. Street fishing.
We have a lot of fishing actually at the North Harbor now. which is funny. On the edges, in front of our office actually, afternoon, there's full of fishermen, and in the edge of the harbor, it's a fisherman's paradise.
And what type of fish they?
But it's no, it's nice. There's a lot of flatfish also, you know. That's a typical Danish. But I don't know if you heard the stories, but actually the water between Denmark and Sweden.
Area, it's absolutely amazing.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Imagine living here.
And this is a funny place. We designed this together with Vilhelm Lauritzen also. This it's surprisingly young. It's was it 3 years ago?
And it's now
yeah,
already.
yeah. It was also planted in a certain height, but it's the last year really messed up my mind because it became so green. Last year it wasn't like it was getting. But I think the first people moved in 3 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah, more or less.
Because
It's
it's
also-
expensive to live here, right?
It's rather expensive, yeah. But there's many different sizes. But yeah, it's a mix of rental and owner
Okay.
also, yeah. But this is a very important, it's part of the public planning, public space planning of the area to cross the island. So I don't think this will ever be closed off. And all the courtyards, almost all the courtyards are open at the North Harbour. So it's a rather new discussion, this thing about closing up courtyard. It's a lot of discussion on the car culture these days because the bikes has been taken over for 20 years now. And it is popular to bike and so on, but it's also, there's a certain balance that you still need cars in the city. It's hard to be a craftsman, going to an apartment, fixing floors or whatever, to actually find a parking spot. All these things trigger a lot of debate these days. So, but there's plenty of parking in Nordhavn. So, but this is a special place here. You can also see it's a completely uniform design. Everything is designed with the same brick, and even the public space is sort of conceived as a one thing. And then this is the silo we did, the one that's stolen from the model. So this is a transformation of an old corn silo into 50 apartments and a restaurant and a bar on the top. So everybody can go up there and have a view all over the harbor. I think maybe another thing that's interesting is also the relation of public-private. You can see there's a lot of emphasis on how the buildings give something back to the public space. All these benches, all projects have to deliver something on this this gradient from public to private. So you can see it's a lot of funny experiments on making a small stair, small bench, and all these different plantations and so on. You will experience that throughout the whole area. Yeah, it's actually a planning policy. It's obviously it's a negotiation, but it is part of. We made a whole like inspirational catalog of edge zones, basically. So there's a dedicated temporary parking, very few of them in some of the streets, and some of them are completely.
How many hours can be there?
Yeah, it's 1 hour here, for instance. And in the shopping street, I think it's 2 hours, maybe it's even less actually, I don't know, we'll see. But as you can feel here, it's very quiet, quite private. And then on the other side, maybe not today, but in summertime, it's very, very busy. But this is our silo.
Is there a ground floor strategy for the users?
Yeah, I'll explain you about that once we get over here actually, because it's quite designated for the main street. But the ground floor strategy for the silo was actually to make a ground floor that's extrovert and a top floor that's extrovert, or you could say public accessible.
Yeah,
this exactly. This has changed a lot, so they have their own private foyer at that end. This used to be an exhibition about the North Harbor actually. I see now it's a fashion shop, art gallery. So it's changing a lot, this one. And then the main sort of ground floor strategy is around the main shopping street down here. We can show you. We reused, it's an old corn silo, so we reused the cutouts for the landscape project here, partly, and also some on the other side. So I think it's maybe one of our best projects or best examples on retrofitting, reusing. Basically an old corn silo, which was just cladded with a new overcoat. So it's basically, it was 3D measured and then produced in segments, and then it was assembled on site, basically clicking on by mountaineers hanging down and clicking them element by element. So it's also quite effective, even though there's a lot of design, measuring, and obviously special designing elements to fit this silo, which was completely out of angle in every term. So, but it's, I think, super interesting example of retrofitting the old buildings. Then we can cross the street here. Nice and windy day. This is one of the other silos. There's 3 silos being reused on the site. Completely different strategy. You put a new layer, which is balconies on the southern side, and then you have the old silo wall in here.
This floor?
This is sort of their edge, talking about edge zones. This is their edge zone on the building plot actually. They made this sort of almost like a carpet or a public living room kind of strategy. I also think the lamps also.
Yes, it looks like a house.
Yeah, exactly. They mimic something interior. Yeah, it's kind of a. It definitely has a lot of identity and talking about this urban living room idea and so on. And in that red building is actually, there's a big hole in the ground floor. This is actually where you drive in and enter the parking basement of the island. So you drive under the canal to enter to the parking, yeah. This is affordable housing. There's 300 units in the first phase here. And here, just tell a bit about the public or the ground floor strategy. This corridor is super important in terms of discussing how to create an active city from day one. This connects to one of the old boroughs, the eastern borough of Copenhagen, and one of the main old classic shopping streets. And this is the sort of a shopping corridor of the new district. So this was pointed out as a public corridor in the master plan, but also the retail corridor of the plan. And then together with the landowner, City and Port, the strategy became that they bought back all the ground floors, all the ground floor apartments from the developers. So they sold a plot, bought back that ground floor, and then they sort of curate the whole public floor here. So they can curate which shop, which restaurant, which cafe fits in where. And you can have, like in a shopping mall, you have one supermarket in one end, and then you have another supermarket in the other end. So it sort of spans out sort of as a shopping strategy, but outdoor. And it's working out, and then they curate only sort of niche boutiques. So you don't have a lot of chain shops and so on. And yeah, exactly. So it has actually created the sort of an audience that comes here to go and hang out in especially weekends and so on, because it's sort of niche oriented. There's a lot of test and trial in this, obviously, but it's the same strategy they're using in the Carlsberg district, I assume. But it's funny, you know, this shop has always been empty. There's just some areas that don't work.
Doing something special in the Carlsberg district? Do you have any project there?
No, actually, we don't have. Yeah. Sorry, we've been part of a big team designing the first tower there,
Okay.
which is very ugly, but we did not do the final design. It was a long, complicated process.
No, because this area is really nice and there are really amazing buildings.
Yeah, super cool buildings. It's I think actually,
The mix between all of them.
yeah, amazing public spaces.
Yes.
Really good master plan
Yes.
also. I think what's interesting is that the Carlsberg district and the Nordhavn was a reaction to some of the first new plans done in Copenhagen since the 90s. If you go to Ørestad, if you know that area, it's in Amager. It's
Yes.
it's
I
a very
know
long
Amager.
city.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You will experience a lot of high buildings,
Yes.
really big public spaces.
Yes.
So these newer plans were very much a reaction towards that way of planning. So you could also say that it's a little bit late modernistic how they planned Ørestad. So this is way more based on the sort of historical qualities of.
Especially here, it's way more like medieval.
Exactly,
isn't it?
exactly.
Very, like,
Do you know why, or what's the origin of this color of the walls? Because it's between orange and red, and we saw it in different buildings. So maybe there is
That I don't know
there's
actually.
a story.
There's
Or we can
maybe
create the story.
yeah. All of the buildings had a red tone when we came here. I don't
Okay.
know why, but I think a lot of historical cores have reddish bricks or reddish facades. So
This is really nice building.
yeah, it's super cool.
Really, really nice.
There's so many good examples of retrofitting here. And I think this sort of new old combination here is really what creates the sort of core of the quality of area. That actually this is building on an old harbor industry and so on, and it's not all completely new. And that is the problem also from the Ørestad area, that it was all new. There's a big lawn, you know, so there's no
all
sort of.
new, has no aim.
Oh, it's very difficult to make it.
Yes.
is there a story behind the street names?
Yeah, they're all harbor cities.
Ah,
Rostock, Gade. I don't know where Billed is actually. Maybe this is one of the. No, this is one of the old street names.
okay.
But then Aarhusgade is also a harbor city. So they're all like European harbor cities. There's a Gothenburg Plaza, and there's it's full of them. But this is where you live also, so you know this area. But I would say this was a special sort of building plot that was designated to keep all these old buildings and then to make a lot of infill.
Okay.
And that, I think really they succeeded on creating a super lively, low dense,
That's good.
human scale development here, which is full of small folk cafes and all this sort of liveliness. So this has just been realized. So I think now we can really see the effect of also the strategy of keeping almost everything and renovating and retrofitting all the old buildings.
Nice.
Yeah.
Originally, what was these kind of places?
There was
Industrial-
workshops. This was the beautiful red one, was a post office actually.
Oh, post office.
So it
And
was.
this is small one?
These were sort of old warehouses, small
warehouses.
industries, and so on. Yeah. They've probably been reused tons of times over the sort of industrial period. But this is where the green loop is starting also, from inner city and going out. Should we go to the harbor front? But you can see it's quite high density here still. I think there's been a lot of bends of fire rules and nice discussions here on how to actually shape such a density inside the area, because it's tricky. We are working with another district in Copenhagen called the Railway District, where we're really trying to push the boundaries of creating denser streets and more greener streets, creating more room for greenery. It's so difficult with all the rules we have today on especially handling trash and fire rules and so on. But they're succeeding here, so that's a positive story. And actually, yeah, over here there's also just recently opened a culture house, which is actually a private initiative on creating a sort of place for shared dinner, community dinners, and all these things, which has kind of been missing in the area until now. It's called Nordhus, like the Nordhavn. I don't know what alarm we are walking into here. I hope it's not dangerous. Ah, it's just a fire alarm. It's also good to experience the microclimate changing. There's a lot of discussions on windy.
No wind. Yeah.
Exactly. One thing I think is interesting to talk about in traditional planning, you talk a lot about view corridors going through cities because there's you need to see the sea or you need to see something else. Actually, here we worked against that paradigm and closed a lot of these view corridors to improve the microclimate. So it's against sort of more traditional planning, but it creates way more better wind situations inside the cities when you work with these sort of more close streets. So the whole grid of the city is actually overlapping, so you have way more entangled street networks, which also mimic sort of, you could say, traditional inner city areas like the medieval city. And that is another principle that's been, I think a lot of Copenhageners come here and actually feel the link to the historical city, and that is also due to the scale. That here we've planned 4 to 6 stories, which is the historical scale of Copenhagen. And again, in other districts, you go to 8, 9 stories, which create this sort of, it goes beyond the human scale in planning, I would say. So it doesn't really favor these social spaces that many experience here and feel sort of at home. So it is a good scale, these 3 to 6 stories of city building. So there's something about that historical city that we as people like to sort of recognize when we move into a new district that is working out here. But you can see it's a complete mix of new and old here. Loads of new buildings, but this sort of contrast of all the old is creating the atmosphere that people also really like and recognize when they come here. Yeah, there's a fire. At least he was running. Let's see if the fire rules works. But there's some really cool add-ons. I think there's some funky apartments here built on top of these old historical houses. So this is one of the more local plazas, playground for the community to hang out. There's been a lot of discussion since the beginning of being aware of the public network. We need to make places for people to come and visit the Nordhavn, but we also need to make sure that there's spaces for the local life, right? So this is a way more quiet pocket for families and so on to hang out. Then there's all these things with fences and playgrounds and so on, which is hard to overcome as urban designers, I think, but it is nice. It works like a courtyard. You can let your kids in there and they don't run out. So it does have a functionality.
So 1 month ago this was packed, but autumn is coming. But it's still a really nice promenade that actually people uses as a destination in Copenhagen. And especially this, as a place-making project, was constructed very early. It's at least 10 years old, this whole swimming area over here. And this swimming, no swimming, is just a sign saying you can actually not swim outside the designated areas. People swim everywhere, but so it's not really working out. But that's because the water quality is good, so it's actually not. It's a good problem, you could say. Yeah, so this takes us all the way to the end out there, the tip, which we also designed again with the Vilhelm Lauritzen, the tip of Nordø, as it's called, which is a big office building. It's the only sort of tall building so far which is modern. It's we call it the modern silo because it has the same height level as the old historical silos.
Only offices inside.
There's only office, and then the ground floor is a big public landscape. It's got a cafe, and the inside space is a big winter garden, so all year public space. I don't know if we have time, we can go out there. Yeah, it's also up to. We have all the time you need. But again, there's the sauna club out there. Can hang out, and there's a 5-year waiting list today, so it's.
5 years waiting list?
I think so.
Wow.
But that's why the other ones are opening. There's a market now for saunas.
Maybe you have to build buildings with sauna inside, you know?
Yeah.
A flat and a sauna.
Exactly. And over there is the UN headquarters of the Nordics, so a huge working office area.
It's the star.
It's the star, exactly. And next to our office is a big international school. So it's very popular for expats out here. It's a lot of internationals living at the Nordhavn area. Loads of seafront, seagulls. And then I think this plaza is quite cool because it sort of resembles, it's kept the silos and the rawness of the old silos without actually designing the foot of them. So it has this contrast as the old harbors had of this concrete haven, if you like concrete.
Okay, yes.
It's not so popular these days.
I love it.
But it works out in many situations like this. And then these plantation of sort of like a local, or at least Copenhagen landscape plantations of, I don't know the words in English, doesn't matter now. But anyways, the area has kept this sort of a hardcore harbor atmosphere, which really works out nicely. But it's really a love-hate plaza somehow, because it's also kind of rough. But it's a great playscape for kids with these concrete hills. Sauna. But you have time, or how is it? Do you know? Do you have time to continue? Ah, doesn't matter. We just walk until somebody says stop.
Sabina said, okay, that's it.
Because it would be nice to walk out there to the tip. You can also see ground floors changing from commercial use and then actually becoming housing. So it works out to actually live on a public promenade if you do design the city and these edge zones to work out a certain barrier of greenery and fences and so on. But it at least there's a certain transparency in it, and it actually works out well to live right next to the promenade because of the distances. What a beautiful day.
Yes, very beautiful.
So maybe one thing that's also interesting here is to see even though it's also red city over there, the sort of character of from Aarhusgade here to the tip of this island, sort of divided by a canal again, is that the atmosphere and the programming is changing quite a lot. There's not much ground floor activity over here. This was quite a big success, especially in summertime, so it also became quite noisy. So they were afraid that it would be a bar street that would just be too noisy for the district. So they completely changed the design of we changed the design with the City and Port for the ground floor to be more privatized and more housing oriented. And I think actually, even though there's a lot of discussions whether this is a good idea, but it was created a place to live close to this very lively area, which is framing a complete different people group. So actually talking about a city with sort of open to different user groups and so on, it's really actually been a success. And it's also doing these smaller local plans, one after the other, creates the flexibility of changing program once you move to the next area. So that flexibility in planning is so important when we think about the time aspect of planning something now. Politics might change, crisis might come up, all these things. So I think it's an interesting aspect of the planning out here. And it's become very popular housing there. Also very expensive. That's another thing.
Copenhagen lives here, or there are more expats? Or
It's a mix. There's a lot of Copenhageners living here. There's actually been quite...
they have in common that all of them are rich.
Exactly. There's a lot of different rich people living here. I think there's also a lot of middle class living here. It's not like a rich hood like that. There's also youth housing and.
And what about this area? Do you have any plan to do something in Bresciano?
It's going on. We just started the competition.
Ah.
So I was actually
When are you going to know if you are going to do something there?
We all deliver our proposals in January. There's 4 teams working on it now.
Wow, I love this area.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Going to be the best one.
Yeah, that's also the dilemma of making a master plan for it. They actually demand a lot of housing.
Keep it industrial aesthetics, please.
Yeah, I agree. I very much agree. We have to really challenge the design coding of new housing units out there. It's going to be a proper challenge.
Yes.
We just had a workshop and brainstorm just before we came. Actually, it's triggering some really interesting discussions on how to both build for the future, but also keep the identity of this very unique area. But it works well as a contrast to the outdoors. So to make sort of give a space back once you develop such a big, massive building, to also create a destination and give a space back to the public also. Have you been to the Glyptotek, Carlsberg Glyptotek in inner city? It's a super beautiful inner green garden public space. So maybe we just need some statues here and to create this extra layer. It's a bit corporate today, but it's nice. We hope the trees will grow to the roof. Yeah, I think let's go to the fitness roof of the famous parking house. And all sorts of things. And this is also where you hand in your recycling, like steel and glass and etc. etc. Every morning. So if anybody's in, I think, yeah, exactly. We can see who goes faster. I think it should reset. Anyways, so there you can see how many steps, and then the whole roof is designed as a big fitness playground. So I'll run. See you up there. Than others. Then in the center, you can look all the way down. It's a bit difficult, but it goes all the way. It's kind of a void. And then at the other end, there's way more like fitness things to hang and crawl and do all sorts of exercise. There's a lot of CrossFit clubs that uses this in the mornings. So it's kind of a destination for many different types.